The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the commentators, guest, and host. They do not explicitly or necessarily reflect nor represent the policy or the views held by Tobago Updates or this network. Tobago Updates or this network cannot be held accountable for all or any views expressed during this program.
All right, good evening and welcome to another edition of VOX Populi with yours truly, Barrington Skippy Thomas. We already delayed and, let me just put it, and I always keep saying, I don't normally have to, I don't catch a maxi or a PH from Lambo to come here. That's how to catch a plane. Then I'll make arrangement for ground transport and I have to make arrangement for accommodation. So it really ran like very, very late this evening, but I am here and that is important. So this evening, I want to shoot from the hip because time is against us this evening. And so this evening, my friends, the three topics for discussion mainly will be that of course, the matters related to the THA and its autonomy. We're going to discuss that. And we're also going to discuss the issues of defamation. What is defamation, how it works and that sort of thing, and how the court assess these damages and so, right? And all I could say, and all I will say at this time, is that I have an issue to raise, a matter to alert you about. And contrary to last week and so what I'm going to the matter, and I don't know in which order I'll raise any, except to say, contrary to last week, where some of you thought when I said, no, I'm angry with the chief secretary and so, and then some of you came on and I saw a number of you met me and suggested to me, that was a clever ruse, and and it got the people on. And when I shared that I was angry with him, I genuinely were angry. And I told you why I was angry. That anger may have disappointed some. And I raised that in the put it in context to say to you that I have something to share with you tonight. It's going to be unpleasant to many. But it is important to Tobago, and whether you know it or not, this administration here in Tobago, survivability is hinged upon the conduct of this particular individual. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We will deal with these matters in turn. I'll speak to all these issues within the time I have. I propose to end at 9. If leeway is given, I expect the leeway to be no more than 9:05. No more than 9:05. So we'll have a good show. I want us to take a very short break and then we'll return. Having introduced the topic, share the live, invite your friends to join. Advise that we are also streaming on a television station on Amplia. The channel have escaped me, but share what we're doing here. Share what we're doing here. You have a few seconds to do that during the break, and then when we return, it would be hell on rough waters.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tapago. Your meals, medication, groceries, and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tapago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tapago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tapago's at your service.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the commentators, guest, and host. They do not explicitly or necessarily reflect nor represent the policy or the views held by Tobago Updates or this network. Tobago Updates or this network cannot be held accountable for all or any views expressed during this program.
Yes, and so we are back, my friends. Now, before we start, let me just let you know that the Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, you all heard now, if this thing wasn't funny, if it wasn't funny, or rather, if it wasn't serious, it would have been a laughable, funny issue, Very funny issue. So the UNC, its leadership and so, held a crime symposium, and they held this symposium at the La Jolla complex and so in St. Joseph, not too far from where I live. And they had some leading and prominent names and so featured in matters of combating crime. Among them was one of the leading pathologists we had here, Dr. Daisley. There was, of course, there was Sheila Rampasad. I could be in error, don't get me wrong. I remember we talking defamation, so I don't want to be wrong. But they had this woman there from UE and thing, and she shared some views as well. Whether or not I agree with her views, I don't know, but she shared some views. And there were some other people, but among them was Johnny Abraham. Now I want to start by saying, I have no brief for Johnny Abraham. And I also have no animosity against Johnny Abraham. I like to be fair. And I always try to be balanced in sharing my thoughts. And very often, that is why I normally take my time to express what I have to say. Because I try at most times at best to give serious consideration in my head before anything comes through my mouth. I don't know how much of you could remember, there was a very serious chopping and wounding incident at Bacolet with the Greens, a British couple, right? Annette Mackenzie was the senior magistrate at the time in the magisterial district of Tobago. When the Greens were attacked and brutalized and wounded seriously and so, the commissioner of police at the time was one James Filbert. At the moment, or at that period in my life, I was working with 91.9 FM, that is with Iowa George. And I was on show with Aisha Wells and in the company of people like Gladiator and Mikey K. Andy Williams. And then God have blessed me to give me a show with Gerard Small, one of the best critical thinking and clinical minds I've ever met in my life, Gerard Small. He does a show now with Robert Amar. I could be wrong. I don't want to call him or give a name. But I think his show might be Sense and Sensibility. But he does a show right after the Ground Report. Gerard Small, they call him Mr. X. One of the best clear critical thinking and analyzing minds I was ever. In fact, it was a pleasure sharing a show with him. It gave me a relief from having to do a show with ignoramuses like Aisha Wells and so. When you sat there with them, I felt as if I was swimming in a latrine. But having said that, that is not the point I want to make. And I remember one morning the show was taking place. This is the point I wanted to make. The show was taking place one morning, and I received on air some telephone calls from some young fellas in Lambo, and there was this police intervention in some activities conducted there. And there was some discharge of firearms by the police and so. And I gave them the opportunity to describe and complain of the police action and so. And in attempting to get the leadership of the police to comment on what was just reported to me on air, I made contact with the acting commissioner as he was then, Mr. James Philbert. And I said, hello, Mr. Philbert, this is Barrington Skippy Thomas. You're live on air with us here on 91.9. We are calling you in relation to, and he said, Mr. Thomas, hold on. He said, I have been listening to your show every morning, as I have always done. He said, every morning, my show is, in fact, it says, as a result of your show have assisted me as commissioner with a number of our policies and public interaction. He said all those things. But he made the point, he said, I heard everything that was said. He said, I have sent 2 investigators to confirm what was taking place in that village for me. And I'm satisfied in my mind that there is some delinquency at the executive level in Tobago. And I have just taken the decision of commissioner to transfer the entire executive to Trinidad. So he transferred from captain to cook. I don't like calling people by their aliases and so. You will have to forgive me. I just don't know and I cannot remember the man's name. But Punkmouth may have been the assistant commissioner at the time. I don't know his name, but we know him as Punkmouth, right? He was the assistant commissioner at the time. I'm just informed his name might be Garfield Moore. So Garfield Moore was the assistant. And everybody but Punkmouth was saved from the transfer because his wife may have been blind and so, right? And that is okay. That is a human management decision. That is not my argument. So they were all transferred to Trinidad. So there was no real Tobagonian at the time in the Tobagonian leadership. No Tobagonian leadership in the police division in Tobago at the time. And so the Greens were attacked. And so among others, they sent up the same James Philbert declared to this nation that he's going to send up his best investigators. And among those investigators, leading the investigators he sent up, was one, Johnny Abraham. And he held some young boy with a serious mental deficiency, not a violent, psychopathic type of deficiency, but one of those illiterate, he can't comprehend, he can't read. If he's in Scarborough, he don't even know he's in Scarborough and so. And some people spoke to me. And let me be clear, prison officers spoke to me. They said, Skip, this advantage, They had no way this boy could commit that crime. They said, this boy, he might be big, but he has the mental capacity of a 4-year-old. And I decided to treat with it further. And so I went to the jail and visited him. And of course, I walked with a recorder in my pocket. It might have been a cell phone at the time. And I put it on record and I recorded the entire interview with the boy. I asked him some very serious questions. He said, no, I don't know any. I said, I don't know nobody in Bacalet. So I was sitting down on a bridge. And the police come and tell me, come let me go for a drive. And they tell me they're carrying me for KFC. And then next thing I know, they carry me in KFC. And then they carry me by, that's how innocent the boy was, eh? So they carry me up so by the church next to the cemetery. So I realized that it's a courthouse. And next thing I know, I down here and I keep asking the officers, and you're not saying officer, you point, say I keep asking them there to, I want my mommy because I had to give me tea and they give me no tea yet. And I realized, wait, it's a child I talking to. And I was convinced something was wrong. I did not determine innocence, and I did not determine guilt. John Abraham investigated that and said he found the perpetrator. I did not pronounce form an opinion of innocence, and I did not pronounce in my mind any opinion on guilt, but I did some more work about it. And the work I did about it eventually led me to the Greens. They were in England at the time. Good evening, Shaz. You would always be a friend. Always be a friend. And I want to make the point, because sometimes it's important to say this. An Indian businessman from Trinidad. I have no idea what part of the world he is now. But at the time, that Indian businessman from Trinidad got in touch with me. Says, Skip, I hear that thing this morning, but my belly boil me and burn me, because that could be a child, that could be my child too. And I made an arrangement with the Greens, and I went to England and I interviewed the Greens live from England, and it was broadcast, comparing, of course, the time difference and so on. I broadcast the interview with the Greens live on the show. The Greens said the reason why they are not in Tobago is because the police have held someone and charged them. And they told the police that is not the person that attacked them. I want you to hear this, sir. The Greens said, we told the police that is not the person that attacked them. And the police charged the person still. And they are not going to be involved in that matter because they knew who attacked them. And the Greens went on to explain to me that there is this massive racket with a lawyer here in Tobago leading it. And what it was about is that foreigners will buy property and so through this lawyer's office, and then they were attacked and killed, and in some instances caused to be deported, and then this lawyer end up with this property. And the person who does the attack is the person who is always a witness to the sale agreements and this. So the Greens said those things. I told the Green on air as it was broadcasted, notwithstanding I did it from their porch in England. I said to the Green, surely this is something you must return to Tobago and say to the magistrate. And they acquiesced and they returned to Tobago. They gave the evidence and said to the magistrate, they are very sure in their mind that is not the perpetrator. They know who the attacker was. They told the police who the attacker was. And the police were very adamant that they must go to court and say this young, retarded for want of a word, mentally retarded boy was the person. Johnny Abraham is the person who led that investigation. Right? Johnny Abraham was the person who led that investigation. That is something that will never come out of my mind. So having said that, and having heard the Prime Minister attacking Johnny Abraham, I had to then take a deep breath and say, listen, no, you can't get confused with the noise. You have to throw this cup of coffee, Skippy, in a strainer. You can't get confused with the noise. And so I've decided to strain the cup of coffee. That dark, murky cup of coffee called managing crime and who could manage responses and interventions with anti-crime measures, who could do it best. And so the UNC had their event. And say what you want about Johnny Abraham. Now, I raised that to tell you I intend to take a fair and dispassionate position about this. So the UNC raised their issue and Johnny Abraham was on their thing. You as Prime Minister, held a post-cabinet press conference and you waterline everybody, including Johnny Abraham, with cuss. Dr. Rowley, these press conferences is not having a bar room conversation by hawk and spit. The nation expects to hear from the leadership. Because with that type of conduct as Prime Minister, you are now putting parents in a position to turn off the television when you are on. Because you cannot conduct yourself like Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg in the Underdogs movie. And make parents worried, not sure what you will say next. So you cuss Johnny Abraham. You go on a platform, you tell you something about Kamala, you say, and she likes me like she like no other man. But something, and it could be licks in she face, licks in she waist, licks all over she patent place. And Like people don't know what patent place mean. I don't know if anybody ever put you to sit down and tell you, you are the prime minister, you know. You went sometime and you did some medical check. You boast about the medical institutions and so we have here in this country, but you always go abroad for your check and your test and thing. And that is okay. It's your money. You're free to do what you want with it. But don't come back here as prime minister and address the nation when our children are listening to tell them things like, you tell your quote, I tell some partners and them to go and take a prostate test and they say they don't want no man digging up in their bottom. You are the prime minister, sir. I mean, I am not the best and I have no grammatical profundity and so. So I'm not trying to be a grammar Nazi in this instance at all. I'm just pointing you out for your conduct as the prime minister. Couldn't you just have said, some men are opposed to the anal invasion to conduct the test and they would rather the blood sample be done? You have a PhD and you wrote a book from Mason Hall to Whitehall. And I'm not comfortable with the contents of that you have in that book. I am not saying you are lying. I am saying I don't believe you. Only recently you came there now telling the nation in the opening of Balizé House, that bus, by the way, it was an unsuccessful event. It bus. It was made up of members of parliament, cabinet, state board chairman, and leaders of these corporations and so. You think Manning could have been opening Balizé House? All those empty streets around, it would have been a Juve celebration down there. So that bus, that event bus. You going down there now and you're saying, some fella came back to Mason Hall, he was tall, he was handsome, he was soft-spoken, he was well-dressed, but he was very, very violent and so. I can't remember the word you used, but it implied that the man was extremely violent. You said he was hanged eventually. I tried looking at the records of persons hanged in this country. I have not seen anybody from Mason Hall on the records. I saw Abdul Malik, I saw Chedi, I saw the list of people who were hanged from since the Malik. I saw Glenn Ashby on the list. I saw nobody from Mason Hall, but you said that. I am just saying, I'm not saying you're lying. I'm saying I don't believe you. Right? You said the person was hung. And you wanted to be like the person. You want to talk like him. You want to fight like him and everything. And so in other words, a gangster almost impressed your life. And thank God for Eric Williams and the PNM, according to you. And Pan and how Eric Williams caused the business fraternity to start sponsoring pans and so. And then education at bishops and so, and that's how your mind was renewed and reformed from not wanting to emulate this gangster to be a gangster. And then, of course, you became Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. You said that. So I went and I looked for your book, Mason Hall to Whitehall. You know, it's not in the book. That version there is not in the book. That serious part of your life is not in the book. So now I'm wondering which one to believe. Do I believe the book or do I believe you in... Having difficult... Listen, as Prime Minister, you should not be rough on our ears with your vulgarity and the way you express yourself. That is one. That is one. And secondly, you must not be a Prime Minister and we have difficulties believing you. And then you went on to describe the former Commissioner of Police as G-string. From the same platform he was on, somebody called him Sissy. And we have a Minister of National Security who boasted that his major achievement as Minister of National Security was to see the back of the Commissioner of Police. You brought a soldier and then complain that the soldier liked too much guns. Then you bring Earla Christopher. She liked too much prayers. I don't know what to tell you, except to tell you, you conduct yourself when you're speaking to this nation, please. So he was summoned by the CIA, and he's going to come back here. He has a meeting with the CIA director, and he's going to come back here and give you the impression that he's so important that this director of the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, sent for him. He's going to come back here to give you that impression that, you know, he's of great importance and so. I just want to tell you tonight, that nonsense could work on Aisha Wells and Juliet Davy and your disciples of incompetence, illiteracy, and ignoramuses. That will not work on the reading, thinking, analytical, intelligent people of this country. When the director of CIA sent for you, it means that you, your government, and your governance are in serious questions. We'll see how this unfolds. But I promise you, he'll come back here and boast of his importance and his meeting with the CIA director. But those of us who are in the know will tell you, when the CIA director sends for you and meets with you, it is to discuss matters of serious concerns that the United States Intelligence Agency have with the conduct of governance in your country. I'll leave that for there, but we'll get back to that as we watch this unfold, right? And then, of course, we must always keep our focus on this THA autonomy bill. It's important. We must keep our focus and so on it, right? So, of course, there's this 6 miles issue. But what does the 6 mile mean? I mean, I'm not really good in miles and thing, but it seemed to me that 6 miles is really from here to, let me say, Beverly's Oasis in Lowlands. And by the way, they have a Valentine's dinner there. Yes, they have a Valentine's dinner there. I'm looking for a date to attend that Valentine's dinner. Nice dinner, dessert, wines, and food and so. I'm looking for a date to attend that dinner. I don't know, I could always get the cost for you or anybody who wants to be my date on that night. You could call them and get the price and then call me and provide receipt that you have paid for 2. Right? But they have a lovely Valentine's dinner there. And I want to go. 6 miles. What is 6 miles? 6 miles is from here to Lowlands by Cad's Beverly's Oasis, but nope, not sure not passing the Magdalena main gate there. That is about 6 miles really. Even if you do it as the crow fly, I don't know, perhaps do it on the meandering way down. That is 6 miles or 6, or let me say here to Canaan. That is really Bonaccord. That is 6 miles. What does that mean? It means that all the central government is prepared to give the THA responsibility for is cleaning up sargassum, seaweed when he wash ashore. That is what that really means. So don't tell me you cannot have an island with a running economy. You cannot have an island with a population. You cannot have an island. You cannot have an island whose fishing industry was disrupted because trillions of cubic feet of gas were found diving or swimming or short shuttle with pirogue distance away to its shore. And you cannot use this cloak of this big Trinidad and Tobago, so you put the THA in charge of cleaning the beaches from seaweed and bottles, old solo bottle when they wash ashore. And you go beyond it to take responsibility for the gas. I reject that. Because the real economy of the island is certainly beyond that 6 mile. And your argument, now again, I like to be fair. I like to be fair. So your argument that when the bill came to Trinidad, now I could only repeat you as Prime Minister, you said that when the bill came to Trinidad, all you have done, you said to your cabinet, you did not change a full stop, you said that. You did not change a comma, you said that. You say you did not change a line, nothing, not a full stop or a comma. Just as Seki come, it's so you take Seki and carry Seki to the parliament. Is you say that. You say that. But those who sent it said, you tamper with the distance from the high mark. Next week, we don't have the time to this week. Next week, I'm going to use one of the topics for us to discuss how law of the sea works, how it's measured, how you move from, I think, high mark, I think the 10 chains, and then you go into the exclusive economic zone, and then I think you end up somewhere out there after the exclusive economic zone. You'll end up, of course, up to the continental shelf. But I could be in error, so don't hold me to it. But these are how it's, so some of the demarcations are calculated and measured with, 10 chains, then you have the exclusive economic zone, and then of course you have up to the continental shelf, and then you have international waters. So we're going to work out that. We're going to work that out. We're going to work that out. And I want to work it out in a way for us to understand that if it pre-1889, where those resources found would have been, whose it would have been. Would it be Tobago or would it be Trinidad? So you can't divide we up. Give we new flag, give we new car, give we new name, give we new title, give we $10 more. But you're controlling resources. And if that's, I think I heard Ashwat Jack saying it, and I agree with him. Even if we sell that natural gas up there for $1 US, then we're talking about conservative figure, $3 trillion US. That rightfully should belong to the people of Tobago because it came from here, right? So we have $3 trillion. Remember they accuse us of bombing off Trinidad. Eh? We don't contribute to the economy. We have nothing. So we have $3 trillion. It must pass through us and head to Trinidad to be processed and so sold. And then you have Colin Burt, who has a rigid DRC formula to follow. And when he makes a decision on which percentile in the formula he would adopt, he just say, and I know you all send a budget estimate of statements and so, and they wanted some more, but this was giving you all good luck. Good luck. I think the autonomy discussion, fortunately for us, is in a new era. At the time it was raised by Robinson, Murray, Charles, and others about what Tobago can contribute to the Union of Trinidad and Tobago. While they may have known it, I don't think the scientific position may have been there to assist them at that time. But today it's here. Today it's here. Basic satellite could determine where you have these things. Petro-Canada did the geological intervention out there and determine these fields and all of that. So we know where these things are. We know how much the quantity, and we know these things. And so the autonomy discussion ought to be different. It must be stronger. Because, in other words, we can't take all we have, give it to Trinidad, and let Trinidad decide on a low end and the highest end what they will send to us. The autonomy discussion must be more than who car we put in a flag on, and who we giving 10 more special branch to guard them, and who will get new title. It must be more than that. It must be more than that. It must include the resources. It must include the carbohydrate resources, and how much would Tobago get and how much Trinidad will get. Whether I go 50-50, whether I go 60-40, and if it go in 60-40, what are the justifications? So no longer must politicians alone and legal minds and historians be a part of this. It must include planners, developers, and economists. The discussion must be different. I have no brief for Vanas James. But if Vanas James is prepared to cooperate, he must be included in these talks. I have no brief for him. No brief for him. This is just the truth. If I see Vanus James now in front of me, I would not know who Vanus James is. So, we must speak the truth. And the truth is, Tobago's autonomy has nothing to do with who in charge and who a new title. Those things are fluff and nonsense. A white German man, I'll never forget this as long as I live. We were on top. I went Kings Bay for a religious event by the Kings Bay beach. And of course, I decided I'm going to leave in to go and see if I could buy a beer and so somewhere else. That was many, many years ago. And we there and we on top this mountain thing. So I stopped there and I was drinking my beer there and relaxing, watching. And a German man was there. His wife was Tobagonian. I know her, and so we were chatting. And he said, you see, he said, look around there as far as your eye could survey. And then I did it. I said, but why you asked me to do that? He said, one of the things I realized with Tobagonians, you just tell them, you see all of that, you in charge. And you don't have to discuss the monies and all of that with them. Just tell them you're in charge. And they enjoy those kind of things. So we must not be flustered or confused or induced, or in plain layman language, mama guy with new name and new title and new designation and more administrative responsibility at the cost of giving away $3 trillion US at minimum. We must not be flustered with that. Our autonomy bill must include how those hydrocarbon resources are going to be shared. I don't know. I know at one time, I was very sure. I know it was on his schedule. It was a published schedule that you know that Orville London was also Secretary for Energy Affairs and Energy Matters here in Tobago. Ho-Choi Charles was Energy. I don't know. I mean, I've seen this Chief Secretary schedule, and I cannot recall seeing energy on it. That is something I'd like somebody to check for me, and you could always just message and let me know. Or if you get the schedule, message the schedule for me and let me see the schedule, right? So I'm just saying that we must keep this autonomy conversation boiling and going as we move along. And we're not giving away no money for no title. If I keep the damn title and leave we here, but give we money. And I make the point to you again. Taiwan has its own president, its own prime minister, its own flag, its own currency, its own military to include Air Force, Navy, Marines, Army. Taiwan has that. Its own central bank governor, Taiwan, its own judiciary, its own chief justice, its own parliament. Taiwan has all of that. But Taiwan is still a province of China. Eh? So there are modules around the world that could guide us in matters like these autonomy discussions. And we must not myopically select person because they went bishops with we, or he's Mr. So, or he's Mr. this, and he's Mr. that. Embrace and encourage all to come together for an autonomy that is going to be satisfying for this generation, this period and this moment, and for some generations to come. As the world evolves, as technology advances, the generation to come may see new reasons why the autonomy must be improved for them. And quite frankly, I think the whole autonomy conversation is very relaxed. Very, very relaxed. It's as if autonomy is not an issue again. And I am going to personally feel insulted and offended if an election have to be called for autonomy, Tobago's autonomy, to be aggressively discussed. I'm going to call out any politician who engage in that cheap, nasty conduct, to wait on an election to be called to engage an aggressive autonomy campaign. Right. I think I've said enough about that. Let's take a short break so I could consult with the time check and so to manage how much time I have, and I'll know what I'll discuss further.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tapago. Your meals, medication, groceries, and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tapago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tapago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tapago's at your service.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the commentators, guest, and host. They do not explicitly or necessarily reflect nor represent the policy or the views held by Tobago Updates or this network. Tobago Updates or this network cannot be held accountable for all or any views expressed during this program.
Yes, so I only, and I'm not going to compromise my position on that. If there is no aggressive autonomy campaign and conversations taking place now, do not insult the people and raise it around election time for votes. Because you'll be no different to the PNM who does it in Trinidad with local government election. Remember all this big local government reform and the huff and puff and so about it? What have happened to that? What have we, where the reform went? What is reformed? What is happening? What is the rollout? It's the same old, same old. Nothing rolled out. It was a huff and it was a puff, but nobody house blew down. Right? So, and of course, the only time you're going to hear more about local government reform and who going to be mayor where and who going to be this and they're going to model them in miniature versions of the THA and none of that have taken place. Those things, and they went parliament and there was big Jari and Ramajay and thing, you know. They went parliament and do all of that. Elections, local elections done, that talk gone. The next time it would arise again, it would be in the next local government election. Tobagonians must be held to a better standard and a higher standard than that egregious, nasty political conduct. And if the next time I hear any aggressive conversation about autonomy is in any election to come again, then I know those who are raising it then and have refused to raise it now are as deceptive and are as evil and are as nasty like the PNM. I say no more at this time. Defamation. Now, unlike Crow, I have the Bible. This is the Bible of defamation. It's Duncan and Neil on defamation. Right? So once you're doing law, this is the Bible. This is the Bible. Right? Unlike Crow, Leroy George, Aisha Wells, Gavin Walters, and Herman Charles, I had to read this along with a number of accompanying material and was examined on this. It's an examination that I passed. Right. The whole issue with Crow is that basically we must walk back what took place if we have to be fair. And I like to be fair. So it started with Carrie Marcel graduating as a lawyer. Inchan Ishmael's comment was, why is the BTOM celebrating? Look how they're celebrating one person from among them being a lawyer. Well, who say that? And there was a massive uproar and outrage. And I'm going to be one of the first persons to say I felt the comment was insensitive, considering, you see, because culture has a lot to do with it. I find the comment was insensitive. I think that Inchan, like the rest of Trinidad and Tobago, ought to have shared in Karim's success, because Karim becoming a lawyer from the same community that produced what we loosely call gang members and gang leaders and criminals. Karim's story is one of hope. Karim's story is definitely a success story. Karim's story is one to be applauded. Karim's module is one to be emulated. I found Inshan was insensitive. But I just watched how it progressed. And so there was this massive uproar, and Crow decided to sing a song in support of those who had this uproar. Inshan felt he was defamed. It went to the court. He complained about some words in the song, among the song collectively, but some specific statements and words and so in the song individually. And Justice Frank C. Passad have held that Crow, the liability against him was a successful one, and he made a ruling and so. The judge said some things in ratio decidendi, but he also said some things in dicta, right? But in dicta, the judge said, Crow clearly made a career off of singing offensive songs to attack the Indian community. And in a sense, in this case, one Indian person rose up and took it to the court. And he made some awards and so. I don't know. I think we live in a society. Now, don't get me wrong, yeah? I mean, it's my plea and my hope that Inshan could, have some mercy, some compassion. He's a good Muslim. I know he's a good Muslim. Have some mercy and some compassion. I think the point was made. The point was made. And, the point having been made, the judgment, you got your judgment and so. Find a way to settle and, not take a distress warrant out and so. That is my position. But I can't speak for Inshan. But those are my thoughts. And if Inshan had asked me my views, those were the views I would share. I just don't like to see people in predicament that create some misfortune and unhappiness for them. It's not a good thing. I don't like it. I don't like it for me, and I certainly won't like it for others, right? But we live in a society. Now, I don't mind somebody doing something and making a mistake, You're making, you are in the height of a platform, you throw a picong, in the height of something, you throw a picong, and then somebody become offended by the picong and so. That is different. But when you sit down and calculate, destroying somebody's character, I have a difficulty with it. I personally have a difficulty with that. You see, I know me, and I'm very sure of my sexuality. Notwithstanding all the old talk and all the rumors, I'm sure about my sexuality. And so Aisha Wells invited one day by phone one Mr. Herman Charles. And what they said is what they didn't forget. And Aisha Wells did that calculatedly and deliberately and so. It was in a politics time, so it was in an effort to damage me because she wanted to please the PNM. She bring on this fella, they must give him some money. Not much, I imagine. They gave him some money, and he said some nasty, terrible things and so. The only reason why I'm not repeating what he said is because I have instructed Uday Rameshan and Navindra Ramnanan to move with haste and drag Aisha Wells and Iowa George and Herman Charles screaming and kicking to go before the court. And I hope Justice Jamada, not Jamada, the Crow judge, Frank, I hope he's the judge there. The point is, if you're having a discussion and a vexation, something nasty slip out somebody's mouth, I'll turn a blind eye to that. We're not sitting down and calculate nothing and to attempt to destroy my name and character and think you'll get away. And that is why I've moved against Garvin Walters as well. I don't go out the place suing people. People that sue me. People that sue me. But I don't go out the place suing people. I just find that, look, let everybody fall on their own sword, and I don't have the effort and the energy for that. So I could understand Inshan maybe wanted to take a serious position, and he took his position. But generally, defamation is really, you say something that is defamatory, self-explanatory. But it must be malicious, right? It must be malicious. So you have to prove the malice. So don't think that because Crow does sing songs to attack Indians, and an Indian man put him in the courthouse, right? I want you to hear this. Because Crow does sing song to attack Indians, and an Indian man put him in the courthouse, and an Indian judge held him accountable based on the pleadings of the Indian man. I start seeing with great concern those who are pushing the race boogie in this issue, you know. So, let me just tell you what are the things to be satisfied before a court when a defamation claim is made, right? Don't worry, the whole book not reading, you don't have to worry about that, right? Right. So, as I told you before, so you must have some malice, right? Let me look for the elements. I think I found it early on. And right, so you have to have the malice. Your words have to be defamatory. You have to have malice. And you must be without a defense. Your defenses are fair comment. Truth. So truth is justification. Fair comment. Privilege. Right? Privileged information. And you must be without malice. And so if you don't have those defenses, and the malice is proven, then you must cause the loss of reputation. Right? You must cause loss of reputation. Some would argue that some people have no reputation to protect. So they go all about the place and they say nasty things about people. For example, one, you call somebody a homosexual. Even if you see them hugging up and kissing a man, even if you see them walking out one of these churches that has married same-sex couple and hugging up each other, now exchange vows, and you call that person a homosexual. If that person sue you, you will lose your case. Because homosexual, by meaning of the law in defamation, is that in Trinidad and Tobago's case, it's a criminal offense, and the person must have been convicted of the crime of, homosexuality and so. So you see, defamation is complicated. So you can't just go out of the place and say things because plenty people say it. You feel it's true and you repeat it. Because you might be the unlucky one. Right? And so fair comment is just that. The comment is a fair comment. There are some defenses you could pursue strongly in the public's interest. In the newspaper case, there's the Reynolds defense, where you must give the other person a fair opportunity to respond, and so that's what media practitioners and so. You must give the other person a fair comment to respond. But more importantly, and this is the point I wanted to make, when you are served pre-action protocol letters for the issue of defamation, the court start watching your conduct from there, and that is what determines how much money you pay. The court begin to look at your conduct. They assess your conduct from the pre-action protocol letter. So I write you and I say, cease and desist, stop calling me name, and apologize immediately and so, or apologize on terms and matters and in forums agreed upon and approved by me. I send those things to you. You didn't reply. Or you reply and you tell me what my father tell my mother, whisper in my mother's ears when they met for carnival. So you reply with something nasty and you dig in your heel and you make public comments and you're going on. And I think in Crocro's case, while all that was going on, I had to drag you back in the courthouse after I initiate the action against you to try to get the court to injunct you from a concert because you're going and you threaten to sing again the same song I have you in the court for. So the court look at all these conduct. Right? The court look at all these conduct. And that's how they arrive at the assessment. I would advise you, folks, if you may have said anything about anybody, This is my advice. You have said anything out to anybody and they found it to be defamatory, unless it is, you don't have the defense of justification, fair comment, or privilege. And of course, you had the Reynolds defense, but that's for media practitioners. Then just write back and apologize and come to an agreement on settling and having approved what the apology should be and where it should be made. Because what that does is, even if the case progresses in the future, you're likely to benefit from the Chief Justice Sharma, as he was then, ruling where in the Pandey Ken Gordon matter, where the court held that in those circumstances, the correct quantity of damages for Ken Gordon should be $1. $1. Right? So, in other words, you don't aggravate the situation more. I think I've said a lot about defamation, but generally, just don't be saying things about people because you want to destroy them. If you hear something, you and somebody arguing, you make a mistake and something come out your mouth, just simply say, I am sorry. But if you sit down home with others and calculate on destroying person's character for some petty issues like politics, and I see a lot of that taking place in Tobago, and that is why I raise this matter tonight. That is why I raise this matter tonight. I am seeing a lot of that taking place in Tobago. You cannot sit down home and just calculate to be destroying people's character for some petty outcome like politics. And so those things are wrong. Those things are just plain wrong. And I just want you to know the defamation law is real and it is alive. And if you don't believe me, ask Crow Crow. Ask Crow Crow. How much are you remember when Crow Crow sang the Calypso, Kidnap Them? You all heard that Calypso? I would even ask for it to be played. Kidnap them. Because kidnapping could build back the economy. Kidnap Indian people. That was a Calypso in this country. Hundreds of thousands of you dance to that Calypso all over this country. If you kidnap Kwaitong and Ish and Carlos John and his brother and kidnap them, kidnapping could build back the economy. And we applaud that. We cheered him on. We formed the audience he needed. Now he's standing like the cheese alone. He's standing like the cheese alone with a $250,000 bill. And some would argue, I like to be fair, some would argue, well, what you go and sing that for? Oh, stop it. Stop it. He know why he was singing and for whom he was singing and who cheered him on to sing. What I mean by all of that, the latter, I just want to say, I want to see what help the PNM will give to Crow Crow. Would give to Crow Crow. I want to see what help the PNM will give to Crow Crow. That's all I have to say about that. And so, folks, I wish to end tonight, but I wish to end on a very concerning and troubling note. I take absolutely no pleasure in telling you this. That one of our favorite sons, or daughter, but one of our favorite son or daughter may have escorted to themselves a spot of bother. A spot of bother. I'm not known to beat around the bush, and let me just say this. It came to my attention, and I've seen the voice notes, I've seen the screenshots, I've seen the specific contract document and so, and I've seen the bundle. Where a member of the House of Assembly may have embarrassed Tobago with regard to some activities that are not sanguine. I have to wrestle with two decisions. And I'm speaking specifically about a member of the Tobago House of Assembly. I have to wrestle with the decision. Do I be the plain, blunt, broken calabash Skippy and reveal it? Or do I take caution? I don't know what to do, but I have made my mind up, and I could tell you it is under very serious consideration. I know the consequences would come when I reveal this. I always keep saying I am not for fish nor fowl. I'm not for pumpkin or bhaji. I will never abdicate my responsibility to the mendicant, the downtrodden, and the voiceless people in this country. I have not done it before, and I'm not prepared to do it now. I know some of you will be bitter with me. I know some of you will be tremendously unforgiving, and that is okay. It's not as if you like me anyway. That is okay. Not as if you like me anyway. But I am considering this, and very soon, unfortunately, I will have to very soon reveal to you some voice notes, some recordings, and a bundle of evidence concerning a member of the Tobago House of Assembly. Have a good night. May God bless you. We will see again next week, if you will have me. Enjoy your night.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the commentators, guest, and host. They do not explicitly or necessarily reflect nor represent the policy or the views held by Tobago Updates or this network. Tobago Updates or this network cannot be held accountable for all or any views expressed during this program.